Hi, this is Dr. Daniels, and welcome to Healing with Dr. Daniels. In today's episode, we're going to talk about red meat. Right? Question is there harm in red meat after all? You decide. Today, I'm going to examine the latest information from the medical industrial complex concerning red meat. Tune in, and of course, think happens. But, of course, first we've got to take our turpentine. And we've got our white sugar. And what has become my favorite dropper. These are just little plastic droppers, and they're available on Amazon in packages of 10 to 100. I think I got the 10 pack. There you go. There's a dropper. There's a turpentine. Scoop it up. And a little bit more. I like to get it to the neck of the dropper, which is a half teaspoon. So as you can see, I don't know if you can, it's a little more than a half. Oh, there you go. That's a full dropper. Alrighty. Okay, there's a sugar. I use a heaping teaspoon of sugar. And we're just going to squirt this on like this. As you can see, the sugar turns a little bit grayish in color. There we go. And you can see most of it is soaked, but part of it is not. Does not taste great, but a spoonful of sugar helps the medicine go down. I'm sure you've heard that before. All right, next, we're going to get our shilajit ready. You can use the end of a spoon. A little more than that. There we go. And that's about 200 milligrams. Yeah, more or less. And here's our water. I'm going to put it in there, let it set while we chat. Alrighty, so medical industrial complex has taken a position, certainly as long as I've been in medical school, or since I went, 1979. That's been a while. And the position is that red meat is awful, awful, awful. And so literally almost 3 generations of women have been eating filet salmon, pasta dishes, anything to avoid red meat. There have been a few men who have been very firm and said, hey, I'm eating my meat. Now, there has been increased death rates and heart disease associated with meat consumption, but it's been kind of murky, and many people have been convinced to lower their cholesterol. So let's take a look and see, first we're going to take a look at what we've been told. Then we're going to take a look at the latest study and kind of see how that all shakes out. Now, this is, there's the Mercy for Animals site. I've got to say this because a lot of this data, information has been spun by people who have other goals besides your health. And so the National Institute of Health, let's just basic sources. So this is 2012. Not far enough in history maybe, but far enough back. So it says a new study adds to the evidence that eating red meat on a regular basis may shorten your lifespan. Now, there's a lot of qualifiers here, and I think you really need to understand when you're reading a qualifier. So the word is evidence. So we got evidence, but we're not sure. Like there might be evidence that you did something, but once all the evidence is in, we might realize, well, you didn't do it. Okay, so evidence is a qualifier. And so it doesn't say there's certainty, there's evidence. So that's weak. Next, eating red meat statement on a regular basis. So what's regular? Is that every day, every week, every year? What's regular? So we have two qualifiers. One is evidence, and then there's regular. And then may, well, we don't know. Might not. So we've got three qualifiers here. And then shorten your lifespan. By how much? 5 minutes, 10 minutes, a week, 6 weeks, a year, 10 years. So we've got four serious qualifiers in this opening statement, which is supposed to inspire our confidence. All right. The findings suggest. That would be like a guy suggesting he wants to marry you. Not a proposal, it's a suggestion. Okay, so now we're working on suggestions. This is getting us further and further away from any degree of certainty. Now, I'm older, I'm 62. But back when I was 22 and I entered medical school, I would read this stuff. I said, but, let's just jump on it. Let's go with it. And so there's this anxiety and eagerness that comes with youth. But at 62, having seen this show a few thousand times, I'm kind of, I gotta stay in my seat and say, yawn. All right. So suggest. So now we're down to a suggestion. Meat eaters might help improve their health by substituting other healthy protein sources for some of the red meat they eat. Now, this is even weaker. So now, we're not saying stop eating red meat. We're suggesting to substitute other protein for the red meat. And this suggestion, by the way, I totally disagree with. On many levels, and we'll get to that. But the point here is you have an introducing paragraph, which has literally reduced your level of certainty to below 10%. We've got evidence that only on a regular, we don't know what regular is, might not, shortened by not how much, we don't know, and now we're down to a suggestion. Like, I'd suggest you take your raincoat. Well, what if you don't? Well, you might get wet. Well, is it that harmful? No, you survive a few raindrops. You'll drip dry. Okay, so now, and this is by the National Institute of Health, okay, authority. Past research has tied red meat to increased risk of diabetes, heart disease, and certain cancers. This is very true. And I read those studies, I'll let you know, back in the 90s. And I was vegan based on that. I'm like, oh, no. I won't be getting diabetes. Not like dad and granddad and granddad. Oh, no. And my siblings, I will not get diabetes. The good news, of course, I did not get diabetes. But we'll see what level of discretion and precaution I took was actually necessary. But most of these studies were done over limited periods of time. That means a short period of time. A lifetime is like 70, 80, 90 years. And the studies are generally over 6 weeks, 1 year, maybe 5 years. And they had design flaws. They're done in populations with diets other than that of the typical American. And so a researcher set out to learn more about the association between red meat and mortality, studied over 37,000 men from health professionals beginning in 86 and 83,000 women from the Nurses' Health Study in 1980. All the participants were free of heart disease and cancer at the start of the study. And they filled out food frequency questionnaires every 4 years. 24,000 participants died during the study, including about 5,900 from cardiovascular disease. And that meets the national profile of death. So heart disease kills about 20 to 25% of Americans. So that works. 9,000 from cancer. And what about diabetes? It'll say. Those who consume the highest level of processed and unprocessed red meat had the highest risk of all-cause mortality. Cancer mortality and heart disease mortality. After adjusting for other risk factors, researchers calculated that one additional serving per day of unprocessed meat over the course of the study raised the risk of total death by 13%. An extra serving of processed meat, that would be bacon, no pork, hot dogs, who knows what that is, sausage and salami raise the risk by 20%. Now this is additional serving a day. So a serving, for your information, is 3 ounces. That's important to know because I thought it was 4. 3 ounces is a serving of meat. Our study adds more evidence to the health risks of eating high amounts of red meat at type 2 diabetes, heart disease, stroke, and cancers in other studies. Now, we're going to go back over this and see if there's other causes of these diseases that were meat, red meat or otherwise, may have been just an innocent rider. And this is the issue with designing studies and analyzing studies. So our study adds more evidence to the health risk of eating high amounts of red meat. Now, the question here is, what is a normal amount? What is a baseline amount of meat that's not associated with excess mortality or disease? So this is an observational study in which people reported their own food intake. It's possible that the association seen may be due to other factors. When researchers accounted for known risk factors in red meat, like saturated fat, dietary cholesterol, and iron, they still couldn't account for all the risk associated with eating red meat. Bingo. Bingo. So in other words, the increased risk associated with eating red meat could not be accounted for by analyzing the composition of the red meat. Other mechanisms may be involved, or other unknown factors may affect the results. Further study will be needed to fully understand the connection between red meat and consumption and health. And this is a really important thing to understand, and all research studies read the same thing. New information, evidence, regular, may, shorten. This is so friggin' vague. I'm impressed it qualifies as research. But again, I went to medical school, and I was confronted with a barrage, plethora of information just this vague. I'd just like to say, my medical practice, I was vegan throughout the whole 10 years of my medical practice. I told everyone, vegan, 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 stop the meat, stop the meat, stop the meat. I gave them recipes, I gave them tips, everything. But what did I find? I found that the meat eaters who cut their meat consumption into half of what it was, no matter what it was, just cut it in half, did just fine. They did wonderfully. In fact, they actually did better than people who had the discipline to go vegan. All right, so we have the Mercy for Animals people, and they have cataloged, and these people do such research, it's wonderful. The top 10 health concerns linked to meat. Heart disease, yep. Cancer, yep. Stroke, yep. Diabetes, yep. Obesity, yep. Harmful cholesterol, I have to put a buzzer on that. Nah. So the latest research has shown there's no such thing as harmful cholesterol. It's all good, and the higher, the better. Just saying. We'll just throw that out. Acne. Acne's annoying, but it's not really harmful. Erectile dysfunction, Alzheimer's disease, shorter lifespan. They show 2 very old people. All right, so researchers at the Mayo Clinic reviewed multiple studies and found that compared to shorter-term vegetarians, I don't know what that means, people on a vegetarian diet for more than 17 years enjoyed an increase in life expectancy of 3.6 years. They concluded that physicians should advise patients to limit animal products when possible and consume more plants than meat. Okay, so a vegetarian diet for 17 years. Now, this has some limitations, let me just say. Personally, I was on a vegan diet for 26 years. In year, I would say 21 to 26, my health took a precipitous decline. I definitely had forgetfulness. I could not remember anything from even 2 minutes. Well, even 30 seconds before. I always had beautiful skin, whether I ate meat or not. And I came from a background where we ate meat at least 3 times a day. I do mean at least 3 times a day and for snacks. No acne. And harmful cholesterol, there's no such thing. Obesity, yes, people are fat. We're now getting, by the way, obese vegetarians, obese vegans. So this obesity, while the meat might be present, again, it might be an innocent rider or passenger. Then we have diabetes, and again, we're getting people who are on the gluten-free bandwagon, getting diabetes and stroke. A lot of people get strokes. But they're saying because meat causes blockages in blood vessels, it's no surprise it leads to strokes. Consumption of red meat, in particular, has been reported to increase the risk of an ischemic stroke by 47%. Well, calm down. Hand raised. Raise your hand. Yeah. So that means people who don't eat meat are also getting strokes. And that means that if you take... So you just had this 47% decrease in stroke, which means 53% of the risk is still there. What's up with that? So there's another factor causing strokes that's not related to the meat. All right. So we're going to go back over these things, and we're going to go over how to get rid of these things, whether you eat meat or not. That's important. Whether you eat meat or not, you can be healthy. Now, I think we've covered the basic... Oh, what's here? Harvard Health Publishing. Well, it's from Harvard, by golly, it's got to be true. Let's see if we have a date on this. I do not see a date. Sometimes they have a date like last reviewed or last edited or last censored. Okay, so they're saying, now for numbers. So deaths per 1,000 people per year. And these are in people who eat meat. So now we finally got quantified. Yay, thanks, Harvard. Okay. So women who eat 1 serving of unprocessed meat a week. That's not a lot of meat. That's 1 a week. There's 7 deaths per 1,000 people. You need to know the average death per 1,000 people in the United States right now, this is 2019, this is being recorded, is 10 per 1,000. That's pretty high. And that's because of a lot of new cultural practices. Not the aging of the population. It's due to heavy heroin use in younger people. So way back when I first started following these numbers, the death per person in the United States was 8. Okay. So if you eat 1 serving of unprocessed meat per week, in women, deaths per 1,000 is 7. 2 servings of unprocessed meat a day, 8.5. We're still average or below. So what makes a person's death excessive or over the top or die young? Apparently, it's not 2 servings of unprocessed meat a day. Now, the other thing to look at is 1 serving a week gets you 7 deaths per 1,000. But 2 servings of unprocessed meat a day only gets you 8.5. Could it be that 1 unprocessed serving of meat a day would be the same as 1 serving a week? They didn't look at that. But a lot of studies are designed to create news or a statement, as opposed to finding out, well, what really makes sense? What is the minimum number? What is, in this case, what's the maximum servings of meat per day, or per anything that would not increase a person's risk of death? So in women, 7 to 8.5, that is not a substantial increase in my book. There are so many things affecting the 0 to 7. Why focus on the 1.5 increase to 8.5? In other words, there's something else going on in these women's lives that are creating their probability of death that could probably be addressed. So 1 serving of meat a week. So men, you couldn't find a guy eating 1 serving of meat a week. Best they could do is 3 servings a week, and the guys had a death rate of 12.3 per thousand. 2 servings of meat a day, and it went to 13 per thousand. So for men, cutting their meat back from 14 servings a week to 3 servings a week really didn't have that big a difference in their death rate. Or more precisely, only 0.7 deaths per thousand per year were avoided. If you ask me, spit in the ocean, not worth bothering with. Maybe these guys could buckle up their seatbelts and drive their cars a little slower. So I would say, looking at this data, for men, there is no benefit in this data of going from 14 servings a week down to 3 servings a week of meat, even unprocessed. Now, what they're saying is the authors think the risk comes from saturated fat, cholesterol, and iron. Could it come from antibiotics and hormones? Could it come from processing methods? Could it come from other chemicals added? They didn't look at that. And one way to cut back on meat is to follow a Mediterranean diet. So eat your fruits, vegetables, and beans every day. And then fats from vegetables only. Small portions of cheese or yogurt. And cheese and yogurt, by the way, is the absolute worst thing you can eat. If you have a choice between meat or cheese, eat the meat. Just saying. 1 serving of fish, chicken, or eggs. Red meat makes an appearance now and then, maybe monthly. Small amounts of red wine are typically taken with meals. So we know that 1 glass of wine a day increases your cancer risk by 10% in the United States. So that's not reasonable to the wine. The red meat now and then, again, the fish, the poultry, or the eggs. So we can take that as a serving of meat a day. Now, so if we look at this, if we look at the absolute numerical data, my observation, there's no evidence that this dietary change you're talking about is helpful. The evidence is that the lion's share of mortality is caused by something that they are not examining. Which brings us to the impetus for today's topic. No harm in red meat after all. What? But again, I could have told you that reading the Harvard study where they quantified the risk of red meat. There wasn't any benefit. 1 death per thousand per year, really? When the baseline death rate is 10 per thousand per year, you're going to rearrange your whole life around eliminating 1 or basically 10% of your total mortality risk? No. I mean, go whole hog at it. Can we just bang in there and make a modification that's going to cut that death risk by 30% or 40%? That's what I'm talking about. All right. So let's get red meat off the hook, so to speak, and find out what's the real problem here. Where is the harm? Because there is harm, but where is it? Let's see where it is. Well, I should say let's see where it isn't. Okay, so we have this women's health study. It went from 1976 to 1996. And when did they shut it down? They shut it down when it showed that milk did not prevent broken bones. In fact, that the higher milk consumption was associated with broken bones. And further, that milk consumption and all-cause mortality, eating milk was like a bad choice. So, therein lies the rub. So we shut the health study down because milk was shown to be a villain, and now we're going to vilify red meat. But let's take a look at the same study, because this is what we're looking at, the same study. Now, this study ended in 1996. Those of you who are really good at the math, you can see that might have been 23 years ago. So how come all of a sudden you're looking at the same study today and realizing that red meat didn't really matter? Let's take a look and see what the deal was. So this is October 9th, hot off the press, 2019. You'll recall that the Women's Health Study randomized 50,000 women to a low-fat or regular diet. The low-fat group did end up cutting back on their red meat consumption, but there was no difference in cardiovascular, that would be heart, or cancer mortality. So they cut back on their red meat consumption. Now you have to ask, what did they substitute for their red meat? Because whatever they substituted for the red meat was every bit as dangerous, if you want to call red meat dangerous, as red meat. So they made a dietary substitution that was health-wise useless. So going on a low-fat diet or regular diet did not reduce their risk of dying of heart disease or stroke. So percentage with outcome, and it's annualized. And this is a pretty good study. I mean, you're like, 20 years, not too bad, nothing to sneeze at. So here are a bunch of studies suggesting a small benefit in reducing meat intake in one large randomized trial composed entirely of women, showing no evidence of effect. So what's going on here? I said, Drs. Johnston and colleagues are taking some heat for writing that adults should continue current unprocessed and processed red meat consumption. People are reading that as you should eat red meat. So what they're basically saying is you cannot improve someone's health by getting the red meat out of their diet, if that's all you do. Okay. And he says, no, that's not what we're saying. It's not what we're saying. What are you saying? You're saying we're not sure if it's okay to eat red meat. That means also you're not sure if it's not okay to eat red meat. In other words, you can't make a recommendation either way. So absence of evidence is not evidence of absence. That is true. However, when you don't know, you got to be honest and say, you know what? I don't know. And it's sort of a tricky thing to wrap your head around. So absence of evidence, that means we don't see any evidence of it. Like right now, I have no evidence of the rainfall that's probably going to show up in the next 10 hours. There's no evidence. So that's absence of evidence. But that's not evidence of absence. It's not evidence that it will not show up. Nevertheless, should I walk around with an umbrella when there's no rain? There's another question. But that's a question each person has to answer for themselves. So their analogy is, imagine I dug into literature to determine whether popcorn causes cancer. I would find not really any studies about this. Not enough data. It would be reasonable for me to say, I suggest you continue your popcorn consumption because why should I tell you to stop something you like if I don't have data to support a change? That is correct. Of course, there are ethical and environmental reasons to avoid meat. All of these, by the way, are up in the air. So in other words, if you eat one cow, you've only killed one animal, rather than eating thousands of plants and killing many sentient plants. This is just something people debate, but today we're not going to. All right. The lead author has come under study now for failing to disclose a history of ties to the agribusiness industry. In that light, one wonders whether, so I don't know what agribusiness is, maybe that's the meat industry as well. In that light, one wonders whether the guidelines should have read, we recommend continuing your current red meat intake until higher quality data are available, which may be a reasonable thing to tell your patients. Some people listen to us physicians when we say to avoid red meat, avoid cholesterol, avoid eggs, or drink more coffee. Much of the advice regarding specific food choices is founded on relatively shaky ground. It's not that it's wrong, necessarily, just unproven. Well, if it's unproven, why not just go listen to your auntie and just do what she says. Yeah. If you want to stand on nutritional bedrock, basically all we can say is that individuals should eat the number of calories required to maintain a healthy weight. Where should these calories come from? Darned if the doctors know. And they say, well, they're working on it. Now, I went to medical school back in 1979. They didn't know then what you should eat, and they're still working on it? Really? Maybe they should be fired. Maybe you should just disregard what they say. That is really the take-home message. Is that any information your doctor gives you on diet, there is no scientific evidence for it. But wait, let's not leave it at that. Let's back up and take a look at these deaths, causes for deaths, and what really is causing them if the association is not red meat. And by the way, it's not. So red meat, not the problem. So I think if we go to the vegan website, they have the best summary. We can take a look at their summary. So heart disease. The quickest way to cure heart disease, I know because I've done it, is a vegan diet. Vegan diet, 1 week, 2 weeks, bada bam, bada boom, heart disease, gone. So what's really causing this heart disease? Now, let's put heart disease aside for a minute. Let's just talk about heart attack, which is what everyone's worried about. The proximal cause of heart attack is dehydration. That's it. If that person with the chest pain had an extra glass of water 3 hours before the chest pain hit, they would never have had the heart attack. It's just pretty simple. So heart disease, as in heart attack, totally avoidable just by eating or drinking more water. What kind of water? I'm a fan. Distilled water, purified, and that way there are not impurities for your body to store in the blood vessels and make them narrow. Now, that brings up this cholesterol thing, right? All this cholesterol plaque. So cholesterol is your body's trash collector for your body. It's literally, cholesterol molecule will go through the body, pick up trash, and then if you're not pooping regularly, that cholesterol molecule plus the trash it has will be glued to the side of your artery. Obviously, enough of that, and it gets narrower and narrower and narrower. So what's the answer? The answer is drink more water and poop more often. And there's your heart disease answer. Now, what is it about a vegan diet that would cure heart disease so dramatically? The vegan diet that I can put people on is basically no processed food, no fake milks, no fake cheeses, none of that stuff. It's basically just rice, beans, and vegetables. That's it. Period. Done. Any rice or variation thereof, no wheat. Any beans, any squash, any vegetables, and lots of water. And basically, the person is ultra hydrated over the period of 2 weeks, and their heart disease goes away. All right, so dehydration is the silent killer in heart disease. Cancer. Okay, so how is it if you eat red meat, get cancer? Don't eat red meat, get cancer. What's causing the cancer? So what's causing the cancer is obviously something not the red meat. It's something maybe associated with the red meat. Maybe it's the hormones in the red meat. Maybe it's the pesticides in the red meat. Maybe it's the processing in the red meat. Maybe it's the additives and excipients, like they stuff the red meat with a lot of times with white flour to make it hold together, when really it's just water and white flour and a little bit of meat. So the problem, I think, with the meat that people are eating is that it's not meat. In other words, it's not pure meat. So if you get meat that is free of chemical additives, and the animal led a natural life, wandered around and roamed free, and did not die of natural causes. In other words, it was killed by a human, maybe. Yeah. Then good to go. So what about cancer? So cancer, we've limited the chemical load. And in most vegetarian diets, the chemical load is far less than that of meat. Why? Because up until about 20 years ago, you couldn't buy processed vegetarian food. It just didn't exist. But now you can. And then, as in now, the uh, culprit for disease is processed foods. Now, in the so-called Mediterranean diet, they encourage you to eat vegetable oils. Well, vegetable oils are ultra, ultra, ultra processed. So, vegetable oils are really not a good choice of oils or fat. You should avoid them. What does that mean? That means not add them to your food. If you happen to have something that was fried in olive oil, not the end of the world. But the point is, you don't want to aggressively add it to your food, a tablespoon here, a tablespoon there. No. But let's get back to cancer. So what really causes cancer? Cancer is a mass that gets bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. And that mass is not you. It's something else. All right? Let's make it real clear. So simply pooping, taking out the trash, getting rid of crap and junk so it doesn't accumulate, this is very straightforward. To prevent cancer, that's what you want to do. Get your 3 poops a day in. Also drink some water. Why? Because that's how the body works. It needs the water to flush the poop out, flush the crap out. But wait, we're not done yet. You need to eat lots of vegetables. So many people who experience, let's say, cancer, have a low vegetable diet. So it's not the presence of the meat, but the absence of the vegetables. And so if people just add vegetables to their diet and poop 3 times a day and drink more water, you can pretty much avoid this cancer. I'm 63, haven't had cancer, don't get screened, and things are going pretty good. Stroke. Stroke, you can just ditto on the heart disease. It's exactly the same thing. It's just the blood clot is in a different place. It's in the brain instead of the heart. It shouldn't even be a separate category. Stroke and heart disease should be in one category called blood clot gone wrong, or blood vessel didn't work. And this is something that medicine does to create work for itself. If the blood clot is in the lung, oh, pulmonary specialist. Blood clot is in the leg, oh my God, vascular specialist. Blood clot in the brain, oh, get the neurosurgeon. Blood clot in the heart, oh, the cardiologist. Same disease, like round and round and round she goes, and where she stops, nobody knows. So it's like a roulette wheel, and the game is roulette, and the ball is rolling around. And for you to call it a different game, depending on the number the roulette ball falls on, that's really what is being done in the medical industrial complex when you distinguish the difference between a heart attack, a stroke, a pulmonary embolus, and venous thrombosis. They're all the same thing, a blood clot. The question is, where did the blood clot end? That's it. Again, a roulette wheel, where'd the ball land? Diabetes. Diabetes is straight up malnutrition and dehydration. Basically, your body it's been eating so many processed food, it doesn't have enough fiber, B vitamins, or minerals to take a simple 6-carbon molecule called sugar, chop it into pieces, and convert it to energy. So with diabetes, you could stop eating meat. Why? Because most people who eat meat don't drink enough water in their diet. And so by simply keep eating your meat, add more water, you can totally avoid the diabetes. And you have to add the vegetables because the vegetables contain the nutritional and minerals needed to avoid diabetes. Or, pro tip, add liver, wonderful organ meat, to your diet, and that will get rid of your diabetes. There are many ways to skin a cat. Now, you can also get rid of your diabetes by going vegan, eating lots of vegetables, and drinking water. So there's a lot of ways around the diabetes, but the point is, fundamentally, malnutrition and dehydration. And, I've taken people's blood sugar down from 900 to 100. Less than a week, no hospitalization, with water and vegetables. It's super simple. Why anyone has type 2 diabetes in 2019 is totally beyond me. I just shake my head. Duh. But I think, again, it's because they're being misled by the medical industrial complex. And of course, as we can see, it's not your red meat. All right, obesity. Obesity is very, very interesting. So now that we have obese vegans, eye opener, it was never the meat that caused the obesity. And when I was living at home, my parents' house, eating meat at least 3 times a day, I was 20 pounds underweight. So you can't make a case for meat causing obesity. Although, for many people, if they cut out their meat, in other words, from where they are, if they cut their meat out, they will lose weight. So what's the deal here? What is it, again, it's associated with the meat? Lack of bowel movements and lack of water. So my husband was 100 pounds overweight when I met him. And he lost a pound a day for 60 days just by going from pooping once every 4 days to 3 times a day and drinking water. I did give him 1 vegetable meal a day. The rest, he ate out at the restaurants, all the processed crap he wanted. And he lost 100 pounds. It took him 9 months because once he lost 60 pounds in 60 days, he said, oh, wait a minute. Well, first he thought there was something wrong. Then he realized he felt great. He said, well, I don't have a weight problem. I said, honey, you're not there yet. You have at least another 30 pounds to go. But it's to say you can be a normal weight and eat meat. And so when he lost 100 pounds, his friends said, oh my God, that was amazing. And I said, but what'd you give up? He says, nothing. He was still eating all the stuff he ate before. But what was he doing? He was pooping 3 times a day instead of once every 4 days. He was drinking a gallon of water a day instead of 2 cups of water. And he was only eating when he was hungry. If he wasn't hungry, he didn't eat. When he was hungry, though, he ate. And very super simple. So obesity then has nothing to do with whether you eat meat or whether you don't eat meat. If you quit the meat, it's a nice shortcut because when you eat less meat, your water requirements are less. It's easier to get the bowels moving, and a lot of things change. Harmful cholesterol. We're going to skip this one because the cholesterol picks up the harmful trash and then takes it out of the body if you're having enough water and enough bowel movements. And so there is no such thing as harmful cholesterol. So we'll skip that. Acne is trivial, but when I say trivial, I mean you're not going to die of it. You might die of your acne medicines, but not the acne. So what's the true cure for acne? It's pig ears, pig's feet, and ham hocks. That's why black people don't have acne, because they eat all of this connective tissue. That's it. And they don't eat dairy. Because most black people have intestinal issues with dairy. So no dairy and lots of connective tissue, no acne. Nothing to do with whether you're vegan or not. And by the way, vegan people are now getting acne. Why? Because of all the chemicals being put in their fake vegan foods. Erectile dysfunction. Oh, poor guy. Again, this is caused by this poor guy trying to lower his cholesterol and by him eating too much estrogen. Even if guys do eat meat these days, much of the meat they're eating is pumped with estrogen. So all a guy needs to do is stop eating that estrogen. Make sure your meats are hormone-free. Alzheimer's. Most Alzheimer's, unfortunately, can be traced to medication. If you can get the person off their medications, whatever they are, their brain will clear up. That's the short story. A little bit of water. And shorter lifespan. Again, I come from a family where a lot of people, not on my mother's side, they all died young. On my father's side, they all lived into their 90s. And my uncle just died at 95. Did he eat meat? Yes. My other uncle, who is now 90, he stopped eating meat, I want to say 2 years ago. But they do eat an occasional piece of fish. So, the shorter lifespan, again, there's a lot that goes into lifespan. And when you look at cultures that have a longer lifespan, there's a lot of cultural things, a lot of social support in terms of people feeling important, feeling needed, feeling wanted. There's a guy here not too far from me who's 95. And he got up one day and he said, every day he gets up, he walks through his coffee plantation checking his coffee plants. Because he's got to check. He's got to make sure they're okay. Then about a week ago, he decided there was a tree. And this tree, by golly, had just too much shade on the coffee. And the coffee wasn't going to be good. So he had to cut down this part of the tree. So he went to his son, who by now is over 60, and said, I'm going to cut that tree. I got to cut that tree down. And he got a ladder out, climbed up on that ladder. And so, of course, his kids and grandkids were like, Daddy, this is dangerous. He says, at my age, I'm 95. If I'm going to go, by golly, I'm going to go. And he got up there, he got his machete and started whacking at that tree, cut off the branches that were causing the shade. And he said, yes, done. And he felt so satisfied that he had accomplished that. And it seems that what really keeps lifespan long is just having something to do that you think is important and it's got to be done. Doesn't matter what anyone else thinks of it. You have to think that it's got to be done. But if you feel unimportant, useless, if you feel like nobody would care if you die, then that is the biggest shortener to your lifespan. And it really hasn't got to do with much with diet. It has to do really with purpose. So that is the story on the red meat. So what's the answer? Answer is eat your red meat. How much red meat? I personally recommend 1 serving a day as the top limit. And that's if you're eating meat that's free of hormones and pesticides. If you're not so lucky, if you're eating the dangerous stuff, then 1 serving a week would be the limit. But why 1 serving a week? I mean, like, why bother? Because there is a dietary need for cholesterol. Your body only makes 75% of what it needs. And when you cut cholesterol 100% out of your diet, you develop health issues, such as low energy, Alzheimer's, and difficulty with your skin structures and your bones. So cutting meat out 100% long term is not a good answer. However, going vegan 1 day a week, yay, good idea. That brings us to our questions. Alrighty, let's see here. Hit return. My computer thinks that I made a mistake. Maybe I did. Ah, there it is. There it is. Okay, so let's see the questions for this week. Yo. All right. Okay, so Joiner says, if there are no live shows, the podcast is not live. You can listen. Okay. Is there a number or link to the podcast? Yes. People can watch or listen to these podcasts on YouTube, on Facebook, and on Vimeo, and we are adding more platforms. Mary Lou says, my husband had several precancerous spots on his face that were frozen by a dermatologist, but the doctor might have missed one at the very tip of the ear, just inside where it is difficult to reach and see. I put some turpentine on it. We waited 4 minutes and nothing bad happened. And then he kept putting it on, and in 5 minutes he said his ear was on fire. Had eaten the skin off where I had applied it on his ear, but only made the spot in his face slightly red. All right, so it worked. He got the cancer off. He blotted his skin with a plain wet washcloth and put coconut oil on the ear and the spot in his face. Now when his ear is hurting, I just dab on some CBD oil or coconut oil, and his skin is slowly healing without infection. Yeah. So the cancer came off with the application of the turpentine. So the history is he got frostbite on both ears when they were swollen as a kid, and then he got frostbite again. So what's going on? So what's going on here is he had an injury to his skin that did not properly heal. And so whenever you have an injury in your body that's not healed, your body deposits nutrition there, it deposits waste, and all kinds of stuff, and it becomes an area where cancer will start. And they even have a word for it. It's called traumatic cancer, basically. So what do you do about that? Well, the answer is you heal up the ear. Well, how do you heal up the ear? Simplest way: give that guy a few dishes of pig ear, and it'll heal up his ear, and his ear that'll take care of the problem. You can get it frozen off as much as you want. Obviously, it's the recurrent subscription plan for the dermatologist. But I would try adding some more connective tissue to his diet, in this case, pig ears. And you can boil them up in a soup or a stew. What can be used for cataracts? My brother was prescribed daily eye drops where they give him bad headaches. Exactly. So eye drops are just absolutely notorious, of all kinds, prescription ones, for giving people disease all over their body. This is a serious problem. So what can you take for cataracts? He can just take Vicks. Well, they changed the formulation for Vicks. It doesn't work as well. So basically, you can grate some ginger, make some ginger tea, boil it down to half the volume, strain it, and you can put 2 to 4 drops each eye at bedtime. Ouch, it hurts. But he'll see his cataracts dissolve. Now, I'm not able to answer all the questions here, of course. So people can, I do have a monthly subscription program. People can find out about that by going to vitalitycapsules.com/heal at home. And I'll give you the details. And in that program, I answer every and all questions. Yes, get your questions answered. We do that twice a month. Okay. So Diane says, do you take turpentine oil daily? No, I do not. I would like to. I probably should if I could, but I'm just too busy. So I generally take it really twice a week. Since I just recently discovered you, Dr. Daniels, and started listening to some of your interviews and discussions from a few years back. Lots to catch up on. Thank you for what you do, as well as you look so beautiful, healthy, and a glowing person. Thank you. If you look and listen to replays at vitalitycapsules.com and you just click on replays. Okay. Apostle Paul says, my Sundays are not the same without Dr. Daniels' live shows. They really impacted my life as well as my daughter, whom she spoke with and helped her so much. That's another thing. I do have appointments, and you can go to vitalitycapsules.com/appointments. And Adoa says, Dr. Daniels, you're doing good things. I love you. You are welcome, Adoa. So yes, give me encouragement. I need encouragement. I would just like to say I really take my hats off to anyone and everyone who does regular live shows. I had no idea how exhausting the live shows really were. But not doing them has enabled me to do a lot more research and find more natural cures. So it's really amazing. Let's find the rest of the questions. Oh wait, back to the screen. All I need is a few more buttons to click and I'll be just fine. All right. Juliet says, "Good morning, Dr. Nance. I'm calling because I'm writing because I have a bloated stomach and it's getting worse. I know my eating habits don't help, but I'm thinking seriously to go on a strict protocol and wondering, could you help me with that?" The answer, Juliet, is yes. You can go to vitalitycapsules.com/appointment. We can take a look at exactly what you're eating that's making the problem worse so you don't have to cut out anything that's not necessary to cut out. And then there are definitely herbs and spices you can take that would really help a lot. Then we have Nassim. So Nassim says, "Hi, Dr. Daniels. You mentioned you get a lot of emails about people talking about their lymphatic and kidney filtration. This is from one of Dr. Morris's students about lymphatics. Can you address this article and give more perspective about the immune system, please?" So this article is pretty long, but what I do is in my monthly membership Heal at Home courses, I go over different healing or health philosophies, what's good about them, when they fit, how to use them properly, and when they're harmful. And so that's where I would handle something like this, which is actually itself would be literally an hour discourse with question and answer. Because it's very important. A lot of these, what appears to be extreme diets, are helpful when used properly. But when used poorly, they can be extremely harmful and even more harmful than the standard American diet. So that would be vitalitycapsules.com/heal at home. Best investment ever. I share with you the information that allowed me to go without health insurance for the last 25 years at least of my life. It has allowed me to heal at home and to live in a place where there is no ambulance, no access to hospital, but it's absolutely beautiful and it's clear air. And someone asks, is it important to have a colonoscopy? The medical industrial complex will tell you it's a case-by-case analysis. My personal opinion is absolutely not. Okay, that is it. People can send questions to jdaaniels@gmail.com. Once a week, these questions are gathered together by my assistant, and I answer as many as I can on the podcast. All right, thank you very much, and please also visit our sponsor, vitalitycapsules.com, and get your Vitality Capsules today. Oh, let's finish our Shilajit. All right, that's it. We'll see you again next week, and as always, think happens.